Absolutely. So,
nice.
And you mentioned MYPros real quick.
Yep.
So MYPros stands for Midland Young Professionals. We love acronyms in Midland, don't
Yes, yeah, for everything.
So Midland Young Professionals, I feel very fortunate to sit on that steering committee, and you and I have got to know each other pretty well from that space, and there's just so many brilliant young professionals in our area. But since I've been a part of MYPros, we've seen a lot of growth in that space, and it's really exploded, which is extremely important for the type of stuff that we talk about here on Max Loves Midland. But looking at MYPros, can you explain a little bit about the importance of MYPros and what MYPros does?
Yeah, so like you said, MYPros is the Midland Young Professional Group. A lot of Chamber of Commerce groups have a young professional group, but they don't always put a big concentration on it. So Tony Stamas is our president. He loves talking about MYPros. He talks about it in board meetings. He talks about it in the community. He speaks really well on it because the group is vibrant and we're doing so much, but it's also because we're well supported on the back end as well. Both by the MBA, but by businesses as well. So the purpose of MYPros is to attract and retain talent here in Midland. Specifically, we offer networking events. Those might be casual events that you can pop into for 5 minutes and talk to other young professionals when you grab coffee on your way to work. But it's also professional development courses. It's going out to the Dow Championship and hearing from the golfers that will be golfing that week. It's really creating a place for young professionals to come together and have conversations with people you might not meet otherwise. Get out of your company. Some people relocate to Midland and they don't know anybody, so it's hard to retain an employee that doesn't have a sense of community in the new community that they're in. So it's kind of, we take it upon ourselves to help create that environment to bring people into Midland, but then keep them here. Or if they leave, to bring them back, to create that space.
And what I like so much about MYPros too is it feels very affordable for that entry level for the young professional, and you guys really understand the role of the young professional within the community. So how does our group function a little bit different than maybe other communities do?
Yeah, so our group so we have around 300 members right now. When I first started, it was fresh out of COVID. So our membership was just kind of all over the place. There's, whenever there's turnover within an organization, someone's kind of holding that program until somebody comes in to take it. And that's kind of the place it was at. But I was excited to take it on because I knew it had a good, strong history. It was just kind of bringing it back to life after, COVID, when we could have events again and all of that. So our organization's a little bit different where we charge a $30 fee every year to be a member. So the reason we do that, there's a couple reasons, but one of the reasons is we want to know who our audience is. So if somebody doesn't want to renew, they'll usually let us know, hey, I'm not going to renew this year. I relocated out of the state. I'll look into it when I come back or something like that, which we love because then we drop them and then we don't bother them with all of our emails and all of our current events of what's going on. But a lot of organizations, they'll tout that they have, over 1,000 members or, 800 members within the young professional group. But that's because once they're a member, they never drop any. So that's kind of an ongoing membership. For us, it's a very intentional way to see who are we serving, who should we get feedback from, and who's looking to interact. And just this year, we've gotten, I think around 75 new members. So it's working really well. A lot of people are encouraging their employees to be a part of MYPros, and a lot of people know about MYPros through crowdfunding, which you know about because you're on the crowdfunding committee, the co-chair with me for the crowdfunding committee.
Yeah, I think what we're able to do across the board is really, really interesting. And I do want to talk about crowdfunding here in a moment. But I think what makes MYPros so cool is when you look at Midland as a whole and you look at our outline challenges and our outline advantages, one of our challenges is very specifically nationwide competition for talent. Yep. And it's just obvious. And I know that we're not the only community dealing with that. So it's not unique to Midland necessarily. But everyone is kind of scrapping and clawing their way to try and get as many folks to come to their community as possible. And of course, folks that we can keep around. And when we look at our focus areas that we've developed through our community success panel that are representative of Max Loves Midland, 4 of those focus areas that represent our vision statement, the 4 focus areas are building our livelihood, developing our talent, caring for our people, and enriching our community. And I think MYPros does such an incredible job of touching 2 of those areas in different ways. Both building our livelihood, which really talks about business development, and developing our talent, which is, of course, talking about the development of folks here in our community and keeping them around. And I think MYPros really does that boots on the ground work. But my favorite thing about MYPros is it's done in a very simple way. Can you just speak about the connection that comes with MYPros and the events that go on?
Yeah. So There's not a huge obligation. So when you join MYPros, you just go online to the MBA website, you fill out the application, you pay $30, and then you're welcome to come to anything. So that is the casual coffee meetups. We'll go to different local coffee shops, and we'll just be there for 2 hours, and whoever can come, some stay the whole time, some come for 5 minutes, some bring friends, and they hear about MYPros and they meet people. But what's nice is when you hear people, which we've talked about before, within those kind of settings, speaking about other areas of MYPros or making, I guess, deeper connections than just talking about, oh, you're a MYPros member too? What do you do? Where do you work? When they have the deeper conversations, that's kind of the whole point. And the point of, I've heard the comment like, oh, it's just a group of people getting together for coffee. It's not. It's important. It's really important to bring people together and make people comfortable with each other. We have more structured things, some that are coming up later on down the road here too, that are more professional development, that are more of a workshop style. But also too, the events that support community initiatives too, or community events like the Tennis Classic. The Dow Tennis Classic is a big deal in the community, and we like to have a good relationship with that and encourage people, go out there. You can go out there with your families. You can go out there with your friends, your coworkers. So we also kind of try to support what's going on in Midland and provide exposure to bring young professionals into that space and, just kind of make those connections.
Well, and what makes it super neat is when we're all getting together and we're learning about one another, we're connecting with other people, but we're also connecting with specific locations. We're supporting businesses in the community whenever we're going out to have one of these particular networking style events. And whether that's even just sitting down and having a drink of coffee with someone or a dinner or a beer, whatever it is, it's just there's a lot of importance in just pure connection. And that's people getting together. And when they're building those emotional bonds, it cannot go understated how important the work of MYPros is. That is the work.
Yeah.
That is the boots on the ground work of helping people fall in love with their community. But then also you're finding people within similar industries or different industries, and they're really crossing over.
Yeah.
I think there was 2 particular moments for me that really stuck out for me as a MYPros steering committee member. One, we were talking about what people do in the community and what they do socially. And there was a MYPros steering committee member say, no, you don't understand. MYPros is my social calendar. And there's value in that because that means they're loving those experiences that they're having with one another, and they feel compelled to want to come back and have more of those experiences with new young professionals. And that is really boots on the ground grassroots work of inclusion, which is just amazing. So when anyone talks about this particular challenge we have, I say MYPros is doing the work better than anyone possibly can, because that is just a pure example of human connection. And then the second moment I had was, and we talked a little bit about the MYPros community crowdfund, but we recently took part in a community crowdfund a couple years ago with Three Bridges, and they activated a space for their outdoor seating area. And we'll go over the crowdfund here in a moment, but I heard someone say, we did that. And it was somebody I didn't know. So I overheard this conversation of them saying like, no, we did that as MYPros. And for you and I being co-chairs of that particular committee, I think it's very easy for us to be close to that work and want to champion that work. But to hear somebody else champion that work and use that word we with ownership, now that's special. We hope you enjoyed that clip from the Maxwell's Midland Show. If you want to watch the full episode, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to hear that episode, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts.